You are now listening to Redbeard Talks Redbirds, your home for all things Cardinals baseball. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hobby Card Shop in Jupiter, Florida, located right in the heart of Abacoa, about a block down from Roger Dean Stadium. This is the go-to place for all sports lovers where you can buy and sell cards and sports memorabilia. Hobby Card Shop. Hold, collect, sell. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Redbeard Talks Redbirds. I am joined by Dave Stovall, my much older, much uglier cousin. Welcome.
Take that. I'll take that. I'll own it. Don't even care. I'll own it.
That's fine.
The beard is smaller, the hair is a little grayer. But with age comes
Well, I
wisdom.
keep my hair short so you can't see the gray. Here, it's coming in.
It's coming? All right.
It's coming. There's
Okay.
no stopping it.
Keep working hard. It'll keep popping out.
Oh, good. I got something to look forward to.
You betcha.
All right, Dave, where are you from? What do you do? Why are you here? What's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is work as hard as you can to spend your best time watching baseball. No, we're not talking about that. No, who I am. I am a lifelong Cardinals fan who has grown up and lived his entire life in enemy country. I am in Houston, Texas, home of the now two-time world champion Houston Astros. But for my entire life, I used to taunt Houston Astros fans about whether they can count to zero, because that's how many world titles they had, and we had, 9, 10, 11.
Oh, yes.
So
similar conversation that we always used to have with Cubs fans.
Cubs fans got the same thing. Like how many years does it take you to win one? Just one? Get one? Well, okay, now they got their one. Okay, so give them another 100 years, they'll get another.
They'll be back.
That'll be fine. Every 100 years, like clockwork. Their last World Series parade was horse and buggy and not an automobile. So
ouch.
Good for you guys. Good for you guys. Now that the Astros have finally turned it on and they're competitive, and now all of a sudden Houston is a baseball town. But
one of the things could be argued that could be in part due to people that we allowed the Astros to hire. But let's move on.
There's that. It's okay. They throw back accusations of hacking into computer systems, and I'm like, those are our computer systems to begin with. I don't know what you're complaining about.
That's right.
That was all our stuff to begin with. What are you yelling about? But yes, I grew up enemy territory. I actually grew up in Philadelphia and New York back in the 80s, when the Cardinals were in the National League East and hot rivals with the Phillies and the Mets. And I was like that. Me and my little brother were the only two wearing red in a sea of Yankees and Mets fans.
Mm-hmm.
So those are fun times. But as you well know, the Cardinal fan thing runs deep in the family, multi generations. So
yes,
never was going to roll over and turn into a pond scum Met fan. That just was not going to happen. So
you'd be kicked out of the family. You'd have to change.
Well, yes, and for all the faults of this family, I'll take that over the pond scum Mets. Like no regrets there. But 85, 87, when the Mets backup catcher slid into the Cardinals dugout and broke, was it John Tudor's leg? I lived in New York when that happened. That was awesome. So yeah, there it is. But you can tell the business that I own and run has got some Redbird in there, in the name of my business. So it runs deep. Been a fan since before you were born, little cousin. So
yeah, it comes with the territory. Like I said, I'm the younger, prettier version. So,
well, sometimes it takes a few iterations to get things, better and right. But that means that your little sister's the perfection, right? That's what that means.
Oh, sweet Jesus, that's what she needs.
That's what her ego needs.
Her ego's not where it needs to be. She needs one more compliment.
One more compliment, and she'll get there.
Well, let's move on.
Yep.
Let's move on. Have you had a chance to watch any spring baseball?
I watched a few highlights. from the first couple of games. Honestly, I got to say, I'm excited about what I'm seeing in the first couple of games. Like
Mm,
guys are out there playing hard, they're working hard. Like the Sonny Gray videos and some of our young pitchers pitching real well early in the spring. Like that's
yep.
encouraging stuff. But most of all, like dang, Mason Wynn looks like the real deal. Like I'm excited to see what that dude can do. Uh,
That's what I'm seeing too. So I believe Monday last week was the first full squad workout, and I went to the backfields and I'm watching them, and I left a little disappointed. It seemed kind of like a little league workout, and people didn't really care and weren't really trying. They weren't really
oh,
doing a whole lot of anything. But then I was back there again last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it was a totally different thing. It was all business. Everybody's doing all the fundamental drills. They're really into it. They're doing live BP, and honestly, everyone's looking good.
cool.
I saw Mason Wynn taking some batting practice. He looks good. I saw him the other day before the first spring game, taking BP, and he was talking to a coach and kind of working on his stance, and looked like he's basically trying to stay in and not fly out, and watching him, pick up some ground balls, make some plays, get some hits. He looks good. Arenado's swinging the bat well. He looks good. Goldie's looking good. Matt Carpenter's looking good. I've seen him take some good cuts. In the first game, he hit three balls hard. I think he only got one base hit, but he got three good swings. Um, I like what I'm seeing. Now I will say Libator in the first game, that was not pretty.
Okay.
There's passed balls, there's it wasn't good. But there's some other good things happening. Tink Hintz,
Yeah,
he's looking
that
good.
guy's
So
got
that's
potential.
exciting to see what happens, maybe later this year, maybe next year, however that plays out.
Okay. No, I'm excited
So
about Teak. I'm happy. Like I gotta say that I'm happy that we didn't like spend this offseason like trading the farm. Like if we'd have given up and traded away guys like Mason Wynn or Tink Hentz or Victor Scott or any of those guys, I would have been pretty frustrated. I'd have been pretty
yeah,
upset.
yeah.
Um, you know, that's not to say that you can't make some trades. Trading away Richie Palacios to get a piece of your bullpen, like that was a good move. I hope that should be a win-win for Tampa and for us. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of but there was so much talent out there in the free agent market that like unloading the farm system for somebody just I felt like would have been a stupid move, and I'm glad we didn't do that.
I
Um,
feel like historically the Cardinals do a really good job of making strong business decisions. Um, I like that they don't go out and just pay a bunch of players a ton of ridiculous money, and then of course they underperform. You could go back years to like uh Giancarlo Stanton. Cardinals were interested in him
okay.
and didn't win the raffle or whatever you want to call it. I'm
That's an
so
interesting one.
glad they didn't.
That's
I
an
mean,
interesting one because I actually had um, thought back to that particular offseason just this morning. I was thinking about that very one, and it's kind of interesting you brought it up because that was actually a big turning point for a lot of different franchises that offseason. If you recall, the Marlins had a whole fire sale that offseason, and they dealt away
they traded off an
three
all-star outfield.
and then an all-star catcher the year after that
Yeah,
that
that's right.
Philly that went to Philly. Okay, so there were four all-star players that the Marlins fire sailed off, and the Cardinals ended up with one of them by the name of Marcell Ozuna.
Didn't quite go quite as we
Didn't
liked it to, but it wasn't
no,
bad.
but we gave up way too much in that trade, as it turns out. We didn't know it
Yeah.
then, but like I don't want to go back and like revisionist history and attack the GM for making a bad deal there because it didn't work out and we gave up Alcantara and we gave up Zach Gallen and all this stuff and like okay, truth of the
Well, the
matter is
thing that interests me is I'm not sure if interest is the right word, but like everyone is motivated this year. All the players, all the coaches, the front office, everyone is motivated this year. And it really seems like a year where, we've started getting more revenue because of TV deals and other things like that. I don't really understand why we're not going and spending a little bit more money and doing another deal. And there's obviously we're not privy to all the information that's available, but for me, I want Jordan Montgomery, and I don't understand why we're not doing it. And maybe they've tried, and maybe they're trying to make some calls. Who knows?
I
But that's a guy
I
I would
totally
love to
agree
have.
with you. I've heard you say that in your couple podcasts before this,
I'm
and
going to
I
keep saying it
agree
until
with
he
you.
signs.
I think you need to keep saying it. I think we all need to keep saying it. I think, and I think that
I even feel like Woodruff, who the Brewers brought back just the other
yeah,
day, I feel like he would have been a good sign.
yeah. Um, there's a number of guys that would have been if you want to go get Blake Snell, that would be fantastic, but it's going to cost a bunch of money.
Yeah, I feel
And
like
then
we could get Jordan for a little bit less, and we know what
yes,
we're getting.
and I'd be thrilled with either one of them. But and while I think you should keep preaching that, and I think the sports writers should keep preaching that, and all of that, you're touching on a bigger subject for me. Is that I don't like, even if you went and got Jordan Montgomery tomorrow, I still feel like that's half of what we should have done.
Really? See, for
Really.
me, I think if we go get Jordan Montgomery, all of a sudden we're having conversations of playing in the NL Championship.
Yeah. But you got to expect that there are three powerhouse teams in the National League: the Phillies, the Braves, and the Dodgers.
I
And our
know.
roster, as it's currently constructed, does not match up with those rosters. Now, I know that's on paper and it's all theoretical and things happen in short series and all that kind of stuff. But do you really want like a short series underdog puncher's chance, or do you want to stand toe to toe with them with a roster that competes with the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies,
Of
and,
course, I
and then
want to have a
eventually
stronger team, the strongest that we possibly can. But at the same time, I feel like you have to try to strike a balance because you don't want to be too good. Because when you're too good, you get time off, you lose the momentum, and those teams almost never win the World Series anymore. It's almost always the wild card teams or
are
the
you
teams
telling
that
me
didn't stop playing, they didn't rest their stars. Those are the ones that almost every year are winning.
I
So how do you strike
I
that
hear you. I
balance?
hear your point. I hear your point, but it sounds to me like what you just said was you don't want to win 100 games, you want to win 93 games. That's what it
If
just
I
sounded
can
like you
win
said.
93 games, get the division, and then all of a sudden everyone happens to be healthy and we've got the momentum and we just keep rolling. I mean, 2004, my personal opinion, one of the best Cardinal teams we've ever had.
Okay.
We got to the World Series and laid a giant friggin' egg. Granted, there's other things happening in baseball. Moving on. '06, it's a huge disappointment compared to the '05 and the '04 the '04 and the '05 team.
In the regular
And
season,
they make it
100%.
happen. They pick up some players, we get healthy, we get momentum, and we make it happen.
Okay, but
2011, same
here's
exact thing happened. Chris Carpenter yelled at everybody, throws the whole team on his back, and we all go and win a
true
World
statement.
Series.
True statement.
It's you got to
Here's
have the
my
momentum and you got to have the right pieces in place. It can't be a New York Yankees thing where you go and buy an all-star team because you got to have role players and you got to have people that work well together. You have to have a team. But
here's my
I don't
here's
know what I'm
my
getting at anymore. I lost it.
well here's my opposing point of view, and I'm going to go back to your 2004, 5, 6 example because I think that's the perfect example. Is that I feel like management built in '04 a juggernaut roster with the Edmonds, Pujols, Roland, Carpenter, Woody Williams, Isringhausen.
I think
They
Suppan was
added
there, wasn't he?
Suppan was on that. Suppan was huge in that team.
Well, and the one guy that always gets forgotten on that team, Reggie Sanders, and he
Reggie
was
Sanders was on
underrated. He
the
was a stud.
he was on the '04 team. I don't think he was on the '06 team.
Correct.
Larry Walker was in the midst of that. A bunch of
He
other
was
guys.
04.
David Eckstein was on the '05 and 6
Nah,
team.
he was on 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6. Renteria was on '04.
Yes.
Eckstein came in '05 to replace Renteria.
I thought
Either
we
way,
had someone else in '05, but go on.
either way, I feel like management built a juggernaut roster starting in '04, and they had a championship window with that juggernaut roster for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we went deep into playoffs all 3 years, and it cashed in all the way 1 out of 3. And we went to the NLCS all 3 years, went to the World Series 2 years, won the championship 1 out of 3. That's a great championship window. And I think that's what you should aim to do, is build a juggernaut roster with a 3 to 4 year window that can go out and play deep into the playoffs. We kind of had that in 11, 12, 13. 12 didn't really work out, but 12 and 13 did, because we had a tremendous roster. And yeah, you lost a huge piece of your roster in the midst of that when Pujols dumped us for California, but you replaced him with a guy like Beltran and some other guys, Alan Craig and guys like that.
Lance Berkman.
Yeah. And you reloaded those things to have that juggernaut, powerful roster top to bottom. And I feel like I just feel like the last 4 or 5 seasons we just have settled for a roster that's 80 to 90% of that level of a roster.
I would agree.
That's why I have a little bit of pessimism about our potential, or whatever, our chances.
So for me, 10 plus years, every season, the Cardinals, they've got good talent, they've got good potential, and the talent doesn't quite play like it should. The potential doesn't come out like it should. People get hurt. Injuries go sideways every year.
Yes.
If we had, to your point, if we had an extra piece or two, or if people aren't getting hurt, or if people are actually doing what we think they might, I mean, we're talking about crazy dynasty Cardinal baseball going on.
Yeah.
We're taking it back to like the 60s at that point. With just a few different things going differently.
Yes. But you've got to count on those injuries are going to happen.
I know. And I agree with that. There were a few years ago where I think pitching, one year they were like, oh no, we're good, we don't need any more. And then we had all these crazy injuries. And then the next year it was, oh, let's go get a bunch of pitchers, that way we know we're covered. And now all of a sudden I feel we're in that exact same situation with pitching again. It's like, guys, did you not learn your lesson? That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that 100%. And that's why I think
we need the guys that we have now. But in my opinion, if we're going to do anything more than win the division, which I think we have a decent chance, but it's not a given.
No,
if we want to do anything more than that, the season basically has to go perfectly with the roster we've got.
Yeah, exactly. And it never goes perfectly. Okay. Like, you love the 04 team. One of the things about the 04 team that was amazing was that the same 5 starting pitchers lasted all year. And those guys started all year long. That never happens now. That 1 year was the outlier. That's not going to happen.
We had 13 different pitchers start a game last year.
Okay, how many outfielders did we have start a game in the outfield last year?
Oh Lord, I don't know, but it was too many.
See? Okay, you're looking at the offensive roster, and like, sure, our 1 through 9 looks awesome. If Mason Wynn turns into what you and I both think he will, then our starting 9 looks great with Tommy Edman in center, and Nootbaar and Walker in the outfield, and Gorman thumping at the DH spot, and Donnie Baseball doing his thing at second base.
Yep.
And our 3 cornerstone guys at first, third, and catcher. That's a great 1 through 9. But what happens? What happens the first time that Lars Nootbaar slams himself into the left field fence catching a fly ball, or Tommy Edman bruises a rib diving for something in center field,
or his wrist isn't up to par like we all thought it was going to be.
Right. And
so that brings us to another thing. So Tommy Edman is progressing a little slower than what we thought.
Yeah.
He has not swung at a pitched baseball yet. He's taken tees and soft toss.
Right.
And so it's kind of a weird situation, right? We got Mason Wynn. He's played a little bit of Major League Baseball, not a lot. Looks like he can be great, but he's probably not there yet. Obviously, there's going to be growing pains.
Right.
Our best defensive, in my opinion, second baseman, shortstop, and center fielder
is the same guy.
Is hurt. He's trying to come back from what sounds like a pretty major surgery, honestly.
Yeah.
If he doesn't come back, then we got to have somebody else playing center field, and we don't have a backup at short. Well, yesterday we got a signing of Brandon Crawford. So for me, I saw that it might happen, and I'm I'm getting on my phone and I'm telling people why the hell are we doing this? This does nothing to address our pitching. We've got the guys to cover it. Brendan Donovan can move over to shortstop. We've got Fermin who can come up from AAA. We've got two guys on the bench that could play second base. We've got two more guys on the bench that could play outfield. It doesn't make sense to me to take that roster spot for that purpose. But okay, the signing happened, and then I'm looking at it going, all right, well, he used to be a stud. He's not a stud
Yeah,
anymore, but he knows how to win, and he can
yeah,
definitely help Mason win along. Uh,
yes. That means
I still
something
don't
too.
love it, but I don't hate it.
I I'm a little more optimistic about the Brandon Crawford trade. It was only 3 years ago that he was
Signing,
getting MVP votes.
signing, not a
Signing,
trade.
not trade. You're right, signing. My bad. Yeah, they signed him yesterday. I'm 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 a little higher on that trade, but I still feel like management is openly aiming for 90 wins, squeak out the division, and put butts in the seats. And they're
I
not
kind of
really
feel
aiming
like
for
that
the
too.
juggernaut team.
I kind of feel
Yep.
like that too. We've got this like self-imposed limit that we're willing to
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
And I
And it
feel
doesn't
like
make
there's
sense.
money there. I don't know the financials of the team, but I feel like there's money there and we can do more. And if
Wouldn't the wouldn't the revenues make up for that if you rolled out a 100-win juggernaut?
God, I would sure think
I'm
so.
I'm
I
no
mean,
baseball economist, but wouldn't the revenues make up for it?
well, so look at it from this perspective. Slightly different look at it. Almost every year, Busch Stadium is 100% sold out plus.
Except last year.
So they're probably making the revenues, at least on ticket sales, that they would anyway. But to your point, TV deals, because that's where the real money is, right?
And then you've got concessions. Last year the stadium was half empty for half the season, and they lost bunches of money.
Right. I'm with you. I agree.
All right, so
I
follow me for a
love
second.
what they do most of the time from a business
Right,
perspective, but
but they don't quite finish the deal.
for me, we need one more. All right,
I
your
all right.
opinion. What do
Follow
we
me
need if you're the GM?
follow me for a second. And unfortunately, I'm 2 days late putting this on your podcast. That 2 days ago, this would have been the perfect move. All right, and I fully recognize that I'm opening DeWallet and spending DeWitt's money. I would
Hashtag the
have
wallet.
signed opening DeWallet, spend it. I would have advocated for not only add Jordan Montgomery as a free agent, but sign Cody Bellinger. Plug him into center field. Plug him into center
Interesting.
field. Add a huge left-handed bat to a lineup that has a lot of right-handed bats. Now you've got Gorman and Bellinger in the middle of that order with Nato and Goldie and Contreras, and you got five thumpers that alternate right, left, right, left.
I had not even considered that.
You move your excuse me, you move your Gold Glove second baseman back to second base to play Gold Glove second base,
Or shortstop.
and potentially slide in at shortstop if Mason Lynn has growing pains, which is kind of 50-50. And then
Well,
you've still
so
got now you've
the
still got
obvious
the depth.
upside is like this year, next year, however long you get him for. The downside is, okay, well, how much are we handicapping these young guys from actually getting the playing time and the experience and seeing what they can really do?
Do you think you're
Tommy Edmond,
handicapping
I
them?
think, huh?
Do you think you're handicapping them, or are you giving them like a real like, hey, you've got to beat out somebody for a job?
There is that. You are also creating, if they are performing properly, you're creating someone who can be traded for, more talent.
Well,
I
that's a
mean,
good
yeah, if
problem
you're
to
if
have.
you're opening DeWallet, you're I think that's a strong move. I don't know
I mean,
anything about Bellinger in a clubhouse, but he's a baseball player. He's a gamer.
he won a bunch of games in LA.
Hmm.
And he was essential part, like cleanup hitter type guy for that Dodgers team that went to what, three straight World Series, won one of them, something like that. Went
Yep.
to like 4 out of 5 or whatever it was.
Yep.
Um, and a legit thumper left-handed hitter that puts fear in opposing dugouts.
Yeah.
And he plays good center field. He increases your depth in your lineup tremendously. Now, when one guy gets hurt, whether it's Bellinger or Nootbaar or Walker or Donovan, whoever, somebody gets hurt, you've got a guy like Brendan Donovan who can plug right into anywhere you need him for 2 or 3 weeks while somebody recovers from a sprained wrist or a pulled muscle, rib cage muscle, or a pulled hammy or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You've got plus if you add Jordan Montgomery to that pitching staff, now you've got a roster that you stack that roster up against LA or Atlanta or Philly or Arizona. You got a roster that can go toe to toe with those teams.
Yeah.
And right now we got a roster that goes toe to toe with the Cubs. Okay, that's good.
You're not wrong.
You're good, but you're not great yet. And I understand all that's on paper. I understand it's all theoretical. It's on paper, and maybe Jordan Walker turns into the second coming of Willie Mays. And we didn't need that, but and the bonus is if you had signed Bellinger, the Cubs don't have him.
Yeah, I know.
So that's addition to you by subtraction from them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a double win. You take, it's kind of what the Cubs did to the Brewers by stealing Counsell away, is they added to their team by subtracting from their chief rival.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
What the hell? Like, is he
like what the hell is
he that good of a manager? Is he something special? Can he cast spells? Like stealing a manager from another team? I don't get it.
It's happened before.
He's not Bruce Bochy. Like, he's not Tony La Russa. What are we doing?
I kind of disagree with you there. I think Counsell might be the best manager in the National League. I think he does more with less. But yes, Bochy won big last season with the Rangers, but the Rangers emptied the bank. All right, they
also had how many
Simeon
really
and
good
DeGrom.
Starting pitchers that were hurt.
True. Okay,
yes, they emptied the bank, but also look at what he did in San Francisco too. I mean, this wasn't coming out of nowhere. He even made a really, really crappy San Diego team years ago look decent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then the Giants stole him away from San Diego because they recognized a good manager. And I think the Cubs did the exact same thing. They stole him away. And my son Will and I have talked about Counsell for a long time, that the Brewers have always somehow, with like Scotch tape and paper clips, they've held together and won divisions with rosters that don't look as good as Cardinal and Cub rosters, but the Brewers still come out on top. And they've got,
but he hasn't been the manager there that long.
No, he's been there a while. No, longer than that. I'd have to look it up, but I bet he's been there longer than that. But he's getting, he's winning games with beer league softball players playing first base and stuff
You're
like
not
that.
Wrong.
A bunch of guys you haven't heard of playing third base and right field and stuff like this. And somehow they still roll out and win 93, 94 games and win a division. And he patches together bullpens that they've got like an all-star at the back end, but he patches together everything in the middle and doesn't make a mistake with his bullpen matchups and doesn't pull starters in a playoff game in the midst of pitching a shutout, stuff like that somebody did
I don't know,
a couple years ago. But
I think. So what about this? How about we pivot from that to, in my opinion, the Cardinals are going too heavy into stats and analytics, and they're getting away from baseball minds, baseball knowledge, and that type of thing.
Okay. I agree with you there. And I'll give you the example of the bullpen this year. I think they're really doing it with bullpen this year.
I love what they did with the bullpen.
I like a lot of the moves as individual moves. The Keenan Middleton and Kittredge. Thank you. I love those moves as an individual thing. My concern is that you've gone so hard into analytics and said, hey, we need to go get strikeout guys. We got to go get guys that miss bats and that kind of stuff. That all they got were guys that do that and nothing else. Where's the guy that you bring in with the bases loaded and you need a double play ball?
Yeah.
Where's that guy? Okay. You can say, okay, that's Palante. He's still on the roster. Okay, but is that the only guy you got that does that? Don't you want different guys, different looks, or do you really want like a bullpen full of nothing but hard throwing, 99 miles an hour, probably going to walk a few guys because he throws hard? Is that all you got, or do you have different looks, different guys for different situations so that your manager can match up and say, hey, the other team is bringing in a 300-pound beer league softball home run hitter guy. Where's your soft tossing lefty that's going to screw this guy into the ground with a bunch of off speed junk? Where is that guy?
Yeah.
Where's your Steve Klein?
Okay. Yeah, we've had that in the past quite a bit.
And I'm not advocating for the return of Brett Cecil or nothing, but on the other hand, I'd like to have some variety down in the bull. If I'm the manager, and I'm not half as smart as Ollie Marmol, but if I'm the manager, I want some options down there, some different guys, and not, well, this guy's throwing balls. Let me bring in another guy who's got the exact same skill set and hope that he throws strikes.
Yeah.
So that's where I think they're leaning so hard into that analytics of.
It is an interesting point. We've been a team that for a very long time, starters specifically, pitch to contact, hit it on the ground, sinkers, sliders, curveballs, things like that.
Ground ball. Let's play defense.
And we've always had one or two of those guys in the bullpen. And yeah, I hadn't really thought about it from that angle.
And
when you assemble a team that has the ability to play defense like our guys have, I think you have to be able to, like you said, get a double play ball and those things.
Well, and the beauty of the pitch to contact thing was always, kind of a Dave Duncan concept. And the whole point of it was to keep your starting pitcher's pitch count down so that they can get into the 6th and 7th instead of coming out in the 5th or the 6th. And then that makes your bullpen better because they don't have to cover the innings.
Right.
Which everybody knows killed us last year. Everybody who watched more than 3 games last year understands that the pitcher's coming out in the, at 4 2/3 when, Flaherty gives you 3 perfect innings and then blows up in the 4th and gives up 4 runs and 8 hits, and then they have to pull him. And everybody knows that killed you.
Yeah.
And then you sit back and you look at that and go, man, Flaherty was great for 3 innings. They couldn't touch him. And then all of a sudden the wheels came off because he was throwing 80 pitches in 4 innings.
Yeah.
And okay. So we all understand that. But that doesn't mean that you like overcorrect to, something completely different and say, well, now we want a 12-man staff full of strikeout artists. And that's all we're going to do.
Yeah. For me, the big thing that really got my attention, a few years ago, we got Mike Schilt as the manager, and I loved him. I thought he did a great job. It seemed like the players loved him. I thought the front office loved him. Had a great year, and went to a meeting with the front office, and then all of a sudden they decided, oh, well, he said something against analytics, and we're giving him the boot. And it was like, what the hell are we doing?
Okay, I hated that too. That upset me. I got nothing against Ollie Marmol, but I would have preferred to keep Schilt.
Well, I agree, and my hope is that Ollie is not now becoming just a stool pigeon, a puppet for the front office, because the front office is continuously being filled more and more with number crunchers and less with baseball guys.
Well, if you don't think he's already on a string, he may not be a complete puppet, but there's a couple of strings from the front office that run down to the dugout, and they're tied to Marmol's hands a little bit.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that, I would submit one Paul DeYoung as an example of, like, no manager who has complete freedom of decisions would have started Paul DeYoung so many games over the last 2 seasons if the front office wasn't saying, hey, play that guy. We need him to produce. We need him to get a chance. We need him to hit so that we can trade him. We need to get something out of our money for the contract. Something like that was happening behind
Yeah.
closed doors. There's no way you start a shortstop hitting 172, just because he hit 10 home runs.
Yeah.
Uh, it's
Well,
that's my piece. I won't belabor it.
yeah, I've had a couple private conversations with some folks I won't name, and they kind of feel similarly. So, all right, we've got just under 5 minutes left. Looks like about
Okay,
4.5 minutes. So,
sure.
what I would like you to do is to give us maybe one or two good memories or stories that you've got.
Okay. I got plenty of those. Like I said, I've been a Cardinal fan for more than 40 years.
All right,
Uh,
hit me with your best shot.
my best shot. My favorite memory, probably all time watching Cardinal baseball. We're gonna go back to your favorite era of Cardinal baseball. What I think was our juggernaut team of 04, 05, 06. And I would argue that the 05 team was actually the best of the three teams, even though didn't go, they achieved less in the playoffs than the other two teams did. But I think that as a roster and performance, everything, they were the best of the three teams.
Okay, well, real
Um,
quick, who was on that roster? I
that
don't think
roster,
Reggie Sanders was there anymore.
no, Sanders
I
was
think we
only in
had
04.
Duncan and left.
Chris Duncan
Yeah.
was on that team.
And Larry Walker, I think, was there for
Walker
'05.
Walker was there for the whole year 05. They traded for him at the deadline of 04.
Right. But '05, he started having back issues and he was done after that season.
That is correct. He was not on the 06 team.
Who was our second baseman?
Second baseman in 05 might have been
Who was
Tony Womack.
Ryan Terrio? Was he a shortstop or a second?
Terrio played shortstop in.
Maybe he was our shortstop in '05. Go on.
No, Eckstein was the shortstop in 05, 06.
I know he was there in
Well, okay.
'06.
Doesn't matter. My favorite memory, keep in mind, I live in Houston. I live in enemy territory. All right. And at that point in time, the Astros and the Cardinals were two of the top teams in all of the National League and were in the same division.
They played incredible playoff baseball '04, '05 that
Okay, so
not many people got to see.
those are my those are my memories. Is I was present for all three of the games at Houston in that National League Championship Series. So that would have been game 3, game 4, game 5 of the National League Championship Series in 2005 at, I think they still called it Enron Field at that time. I don't think it was even called Minute Maid Park yet. But they got the train track up there in left field on the top of the wall and the whole thing. And that stadium was crazy loud.
Well,
Crazy
you're
loud.
talking game 5 right now.
Well, I'm all three games.
Okay.
We were there. And like game 4, Jeff Kent hit a walk-off home run for Houston to win it. And we were there. Me and my dad and my brother, we were at those 3 games. We bought tickets for all of them. And we shuffled out of there in our red with all these Astros fans screaming at us and stuff after Jeff Kent won the game. And then the next night we were there for game 5, and the stadium was even louder in the top of the 9th inning. And they brought in Brad Lidge, their untouchable closer, with the nasty slider and the big fastball and the whole
Lights
thing.
out Lidge.
Lights out Lidge. And they turn the lights down and they're doing this like flashing strobe light effect. And the crowd is going bonkers.
Hey, just so you know, you got a minute.
Clemens and Pettit are on the front row going berserk. And a couple guys scratched their way on base. I want to say it was Eckstein scratched his way on base. And then Jim Edmonds drew a walk, and Pujols came up with 2 on and hit the bomb that ended Brad Lidge's career. And the memory for me was I had to stand up because everybody in the stadium was standing if I wanted to see. And Lidge threw a pitch, and Pujols murdered it. And it went from 110 decibels in that stadium to like 10 decibels. Like it just, the volume level went from like giving me a headache, your ears are bleeding, noisy, to boom, silence, literal silence. And the whole stadium was in shock, stunned. And there was me and my dad and my brother like up in kind of upper deck, even with third base, is where we saw it from. And that is over top of the Cardinals dugout. So the Cardinals dugout is right below us. And then the crowd went so silent that I could literally hear the Cardinals dugout cheering from where I was in the upper deck. And everybody in the stadium went silent, shut up, and sat down all in one. And I could see on the far side of the stadium, past the first base dugout, there was another little group of Cardinal fans in their red jerseys, and they were screaming and jumping up and down. And I could hear and see them from where I was because we were the only two groups of Cardinal fans in the stadium. And there was three. There was the Cardinals dugout and us and them, and we were the only three groups screaming and yelling in excitement. And everybody else was dead silent. It was surreal how amazing this was. And it was, and of course, it was
imagining this as you say it, and it sounds incredibly striking.
Yeah, striking is exactly it. And so it's because of the immediate change in the striking emotion of it, it's something that I'll never forget. Pujols, and then of course you're filing out of the stadium, and it's the opposite feeling from the day before when Kent had hit his, and we were dejected. Like we had a chance to even the series the day before, but Kent beat us, and then today we had staved off elimination with this, and Pujols had cemented his legacy as a future Hall of Famer that night, in my opinion. He was, did he win his first MVP that year? Or maybe the next. I can't remember, but he was obviously an all-star MVP type of guy already. But in my opinion, that booked his flight to Cooperstown that night when he, and of course he basically ended Brad Lidge's career because the dude was so shell-shocked he was never the same.
Well, hold on. I'll change the story on that slightly. He was completely down and out for the next 2-ish years. He was with the Astros the following year in 2006. And by the way, in the World Series, I remember him not being great.
No, he got beat by the White Sox in the World Series.
The Phillies signed him. And
right.
There was, what was it, 2008 when the Phillies won? I think it was 2008, 2009. One of those years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was all of a sudden a stud again. He had, if I remember correctly, he had a perfect regular season with no blown saves in, I think it was 2008, and the Phillies won the World Series. So he had another 2 really good years, but he spent like 2.5 years finding himself again.
But go back and look it up. Even after he had those great years with Philly, he had some real struggles in the playoff moments when he got into clutch situations. He had some more problems.
Oh yeah, he fell off again for sure.
Yeah, in his postseason, he had some what you would call a choke moment, But then, I mean, you got to be fair. Like every closer, you name a great closer, he's had a choke moment. Like Mariano Rivera gave up the single to Luis Gonzalez to win the World Series for the Diamondbacks in 2001, I want to say. Yeah. Okay. And Rivera's like hands down best closer ever. Like, I don't think anybody would argue with that. Dennis Eckersley gave up the shot to Kirk Gibson in
there's a fun story behind that, but yes.
Okay. Like every great closer, those are 2 of the best closers I know. And they're going to give those up. Like those are going to happen. Like you pitch enough high leverage games, that's going to happen somewhere in your career.
Yeah. Okay. When your job is you have to be perfect to make sure we win. Well, we're not all perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
All not perfect.
Right. So,
all right. So I got a couple things to add on to your story.
Shoot.
2005 also happened to be the last season for Busch Stadium 2. So that shot where Albert hits a laser beam over the railroad tracks sends the Cardinals back to St. Louis for one more game in Busch Stadium 2, which was fantastic.
Yes.
And then now jumping back kind of forward from that point, There's a current very good Cardinal baseball player by the name of Goldie, who is a Texas boy, was also at that game, and he grew up idolizing Albert Pujols, and he watched that happen.
There you go. But he's
And
probably wearing
now,
Astros colors when it happened.
yeah.
Probably was.
He's a Texas boy. He went to Texas State. I got to see him play there when I was there.
There you go. That's right. That's right. Okay.
So
full
tying
circle.
that in a little bit.
Tying it all together. Okay. All right. Well, and then the guy we just signed to be our backup shortstop, Brandon Crawford, right? The famous story about Brandon Crawford was that he grew up a Giants fan and watched the Barry Bonds Giants back in the that would have been the 2002 World Series against the Angels.
Yep.
Right. And then he wound up getting drafted and coming to play for his favorite team and playing all those years and winning 3 championships with his Giants. So a lot of those 10, 12, 10, 12,
he wasn't
14.
there for all 3. He was there for 2.
He wasn't there? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Giants won 3, but he's only there for 2.
Right.
Okay. All right. I will accept the correction. But yeah, so he got to run his full circle thing. So now here's my last point. DeWitt, Mozeliak, go give Goldie the chance to come full circle and get his championship.
Thank you.
Give him the chance.
Love that. Thank you.
Give him the chance. All right.
Come on,
Jordan
Mo.
Montgomery's still out there. Get it done.
Let's do it.
Get it done. Give us some reason to be optimistic. Put butts in the seats. Sell beers at the stadium. All that.
I love actual hate. Love the fact that the the Cubs go out and sign Bellinger, and we're like, oh yeah, take this. We're gonna get a backup shortstop.
Brandon Crawford. Yay. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
All right.
Go do it.
Let's shut this down. We got stuff to do. Okay. I gotta go see a ball game. We'll do this again. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Loved it.
All right, boys and girls. Let's go Cardinals.
Let's go Cardinals.
See you, buddy.
Later.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much once again for joining us for this episode of Redbeard Talks Redbirds podcast. Make sure you go over there, hit like and subscribe for this channel. And don't forget to hit that notification button. Make sure you don't miss the next episode. Let's go Cardinals.